Senator Roy Blunt, welcome back to Big 550 KTRS.
Junior senator, at my age, being called a junior anything is probably a good thing.
All right.
Being a senator, though, now who knows whether that's a good thing or not? We just are not doing the work that needs to get done. But I think we're going to have to deal with these problems. And as you know, I'm pretty optimistic that when we get to the end of this year, no matter what voters decide, we're going to have to live with those decisions and move on and try to solve problems.
One of the things you and the senior senator from Missouri, Claire McCaskill, agreed on, more breaking news, you guys both were in favor of this current farm bill. Explain yourself.
Well, we were. I've always been a supporter of the farm programs. I'm involved in these agriculture issues, I hope, in a way that is always good for Missouri, and you need a farm bill, particularly, and I think this farm bill actually moves in the right direction. It really focuses on crop insurance for farmers more than any kind of other payments, and hopefully we'll have good years, and that crop insurance won't be necessary. But the farm bill saves $23.5 billion that would have otherwise been spent if we stuck with the farm programs we have today. So it's one of the few areas where two people have stepped up, in this case the chairman and the ranking Republican, our neighbor from Kansas, Pat Roberts, and produced a bill that actually cuts spending and does it in a significant way, though, these farm programs still involve a lot of money, but they'll involve $23 billion less dollars if this bill goes into effect than they would if we stayed with the current farm program.
A lot of people don't understand why farmers get subsidized or get some type of government insurance if their crop fails. If they start a restaurant and the restaurant fails, they don't get restaurant insurance from the federal government.
Well, we do have a real obligation, I think, to do what we can to be sure we have a good and consistent food source. The farm programs the last few years haven't cost nearly as much as anticipated because prices have been high, and American farmers are more productive than anybody else. Insurance is what it is, and I don't think you could actually do this insurance in a private marketplace in a way that would ensure that every farm family had a chance to get that insurance. Americans spend so much less of their budget on food now than they ever have before in the history of our country or the history of the world, and food demand is going to go up. The anticipation is that the world in 2050 will use twice as much food as we use right now because of, one, growing population, and two, these countries that are emerging economically, once they get better food, they want to continue to have that better food, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing for American farmers. It's an area that our exports are good, and these farm policies don't cost a lot of money if the weather and other things don't devastate what Missouri and other farming families are trying to do.
Well,
and 80% of the farm bill is now the nutrition programs. I'd actually rather separate the two topics so that we're talking about all these nutrition programs, which have a benefit and have a place, school lunch and other things, and then really you're talking about farm programs and the 20% of spending that affects farm families and rural communities.
Senator McCaskill and you, as I said, both voted for this. How is your relationship with Senator McCaskill?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I like her. She is smart. We disagree on lots of things, but there are lots of things we've found ways to work together on. In fact, my goal the first year and a half in the Senate's been to, particularly the first year, to find everything that Senator McCaskill and I could work on and try to focus on that. And we clearly disagree on some of the big things. We voted a big vote this week that we were on different sides of, was the vote not to move forward with this EPA policy that will raise Missouri electric bills and electric bills of every other state that depends on coal for its power. So there are plenty of things we disagree on, but I think we have a good relationship and a good working relationship. I won't be in the majority in all likelihood in the Senate. Harry Reid will still be the majority leader if Senator McCaskill comes back, and I have more problems with that than I do many of the other things that we're able to work together on.
Now, Senator Blunt, the last time you were on the show, as I said in the interview, you're making some news here, and you got into a little tiff with conservative blogger Michelle Malkin. What's going on there?
You know, I was trying to remember exactly which show I was on because I listened to the tape and then heard it was a discussion with you. You know, I mean, I think the silliness about defending the current healthcare system as the perfect system, as opposed to admitting that some things need to be done, and they clearly do. And I've been a leader in this fight for a long time of making our healthcare system work better, making insurance more available to more people, competitive marketplace. I think when you and I have talked many times about why sitting there in your studio shouldn't you be able to buy an insurance policy that's available in Alton, Illinois, or for that matter, Hartford, Connecticut. You know, we need a marketplace, and then I had a provision that's in the healthcare bill where insurance companies would have to include family coverage up to 26 if families wanted to exercise that option as opposed to 22. And a number of people say, well, that's just young people being irresponsible. What it really is young people who are pretty healthy and think they probably aren't going to need insurance, and they're probably right. But an easy way to get them covered, if they do have an unanticipated illness or more likely even an accident and have big health care problems because of that, is to just let them stay on their parents' policies if that works for them and their parents. And I would be for keeping that provision, which was my bill in the House. I've always been for it. And if the court next week decides that the president's health care plan is unconstitutional, I think there are provisions like that one that we should look at and say, okay, how do we put these in? But let's put them in one at a time. Let's not have a 2,600-page bill that people don't understand. Let's have a bill that really does improve health care in the country, and I don't think the president's bill does that. So back to our other topic, that's another big area of disagreement that Senator McCaskill and I have. She was for the president's health care plan, and I'm not, and I wasn't. And I think it's a huge mistake if we stay on the road of the Affordable Health Care Act.
What happens if the Supreme Court comes back and rules that it is constitutional and that's that? Then I guess it just sort of goes into effect, right, as it moves forward?
Well, it would go into effect barring what happens on Election Day. The American people, by huge numbers, don't want it to go into effect. You know, the more they've looked at it, the more they don't like it. And I'm just as opposed to it if it's constitutional. Another topic I remember you and I have had, as I am if it's unconstitutional. There are a lot of things you can do that are constitutional that are wrong, like these EPA rules and regulations that bad utility policy. It's constitutional, but it's wrong, and I'm opposed to it because it's wrong, not because the government couldn't possibly do it. I think it's unconstitutional, but I think there are three questions here to ask. One is it constitutional? Two is it a good idea? And three is, can we afford it? And if the answer to any of them is no, we shouldn't do it. I believe the answer to all three of them could be no, but I know the answer to 2 and 3, is it a good idea and can we afford it, is no. So let's do the things that would work that we can afford rather than the things that won't work that we can't afford.
Senator Blunt, you're always welcome on the show. You know that. You pick up your mail here every time you're in town, and you're free to make national news on this show anytime you want. Anything you want to say to Michelle Malkin?
I had no idea you were in league with Michelle Malkin on these issues.
I didn't either.
No. Yeah, exactly. I'm always glad to be with you. I think you do a great job every day, and love coming by when I can come by, and like talking to you. Keeping up. What's the weather like in St. Louis today?
Hazy, hot, and humid. Going to be nice today, and it's going to be hazy, hot, and humid all weekend long. Hey, let me ask you real quick. How's your son, former governor? How's he doing?
You know, he's doing really well. He's doing real well, and he is enjoying working in the private sector. He's working for the 3 U.S. auto companies in a job that a guy named Andy Card, who was the chief of staff for President Bush, had between the 2 Bush administrations, and spending time in both Missouri and Michigan and Washington and I think benefiting from the fact that the more Missourians look at what he did when he was governor, none of which has really ever been undone, the more they're glad that we had somebody there who was willing to make the hard choices that Illinois and other states didn't make.
Senator Blunt, always a pleasure. Be good, safe travels, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hey, buddy, good to talk to you. Bye.
You got it. 747 here on the Big 550 KTRS.